yourself and let us know what your art practice is. We will just wait a few minutes, just probably about another minute or so to make sure that we get everyone on the call before we start going. Hello, Trish.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us today.
No worries. I'm just trying. Sorry.
No, that's okay. We have you at as the last on the list of panels today.
Perfect.
All right, excellent. So I think we're going to get started here. We are recording today's session, just so everyone is aware. Thank you everyone for joining us this wonderful Thursday evening for Artwork, How to Get Paid Running Your Business Online. This is a professional development session in partnership with the Allied Arts Council and ATB branch for arts and culture. My name is Dawn Leidy and I am the Allied Arts Council Community Relations Manager, and I will be your moderator for today. I would like to start by acknowledging that our session is being streamed from Lethbridge and that we are situated on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains, and we pay respect to the Blackfoot people past, present, and future while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. The city of Lethbridge is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. So we are really excited to be hosting today's session. September has been designated by the Government of Alberta as the Month of the Artist. And we have been working for quite some time with ATB Entrepreneur Centre in Lethbridge and ATB Branch for Arts and Culture over the past year in developing professional development sessions for the artists within our community, leading up to this month's session, knowing that it is the Month of the Artist. So we're absolutely thrilled to have 3 stellar artists with us on the panel to talk about how to get paid, because art is work. And we've been promoting that within the community for quite some time here in Lethbridge. You will hear from each of the 3 panelists throughout the evening. I'm just going to move our slide just to get to our agenda. So in terms of housekeeping, if you haven't already done so, please introduce yourself in the chat. And it should be on the bottom part of your screen or at the top. And you can indicate that you're chatting to all panelists and attendees. And then that way everyone will see who you are. And if you want to let us know what your art practice is, that would be great. We will do a little bit of an introduction around who ATB Arts and Culture, Branch for Arts and Culture is, and a little bit about the Allied Arts Council. We will move that into our presentation, and we will have Jessica start. We will have Vicky follow, and then Trish to wrap up. If you have questions, please do put them in the Q&A box, and I will be moderating. If it looks like there's a question that is pertinent to the particular information that is being presented at that time, I'll find the appropriate time to interrupt. If it looks like it's a general question that could be answered at the end of the presenter, we'll do it then. So do please keep track of your questions in the Q&A box. And then following all 3 panelists and Q&A, we will just have some closing remarks. So I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jocelyn. Jocelyn, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and a little bit about the branch.
Awesome, thanks, Dawn. So yes, my name is Jocelyn Budman. I'm the community manager with ATB Branch for Arts and Culture. For those of you who aren't familiar with the branch, we are actually a bank specifically for creative and not-for-profit cultural organizations. We have 2 physical locations in Edmonton and Calgary, but with those don't limit us to the communities we serve. So we serve artists from across the province. On top of being a bank where we have specific financial solutions for artists and creatives, our spaces also act as galleries where we feature members of the branch, and in non-unprecedented times, venues where we invite our members to host different community events in our spaces. We also get to team up with some great other partners within ATB, one of those being the Entrepreneur Center. They have incredible resources for Albertan entrepreneurs, and you can check them out at atbentrepreneurcenter.com. And you can keep in touch with us at the branch by following our Facebook page if you just search ATB's Branch for Arts and Culture. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me personally. I'll throw in my contact information in the chat there for anyone interested. And without further ado, we'll get to our awesome panelists, starting with Jessica.
Excellent. We're actually gonna, sorry, Jocelyn.
Just kidding. No, we're not.
No, we're not. We're gonna have Tara let everyone know who the Allied Arts Council is, because I think we have some new folks on the call today that maybe don't know who we are. So Tara, if you'd like to introduce yourself and let everyone know about the Allied Arts Council. Oh, Tara, you need to turn on your microphone.
Technical difficulties.
There you
Excuse
go.
me. Hi, everybody. My name is Tara Galanders, and I'm the Projects and Membership Manager for the Allied Arts Council. We are an organization that has been around for 62 years, I believe. This year, Dawn, is it 61 or 62?
Yeah.
And we run a large arts center here in Lethbridge called CASA. We have a very large education program, so you can come and take tons of wonderful classes with us. If you want to learn how to draw or paint or pottery, we can help you out with that. As well, we run a wonderful fine arts and crafts store on 7th Street in downtown Lethbridge called AAC Works. This is a fairly new project for us, and it's just a way for us to support artists if they're looking for a way to, another opportunity to sell what they make. So that's been an exciting project for us. And also we just do a lot of other wonderful events where we, you know, professional development, education opportunities, but we also look for opportunities where artists can be paid for their work. And we are a member-based organization, and so we're always looking for new members. Membership is $25 a year for individual members. We also have an allied membership class. This is for groups. You know, the Lethbridge Artists Club, for instance, or the Weavers. We have a lot of groups who are allied members, and those were the very first members of CASA, the allied membership. But we're always looking for members, so if you'd like to support the art scene here in Lethbridge and in Southern Alberta, we would look forward to you becoming a member. But the thing I really am excited about is our upcoming event at the end of this month. It's Arts Days 2020 COVID edition. We have a lot of wonderful events that are going to be going on. We have an AAC pop-up gallery. I've rented an empty space in the downtown Lethbridge where we're going to show some wonderful pieces of art by many talented artists here in Lethbridge. We have a window gallery, so we're going to be painting windows in the downtown area in a mural style. So it's a great opportunity for artists to take part in that. We're going to be supporting performing artists. We're going to be having performing artists out on Rotary Square at CASA, playing a huge variety of wonderful performing artists. All these opportunities are paid. We really believe strongly in supporting and paying for the work that is provided to us, and makes Lethbridge a wonderful place to live. I am still looking for some artists for the window painting gallery. If you are interested and live in Lethbridge, I would love to have you contact me and let me know. Again, a paid opportunity. It is September 24th, 25th, 26th, and 27th. As well, on the 27th, on our very last day of Arts Days, we're going to be having a fun, family-friendly event out on Rotary Square. We're going to be having live music. We're going to be having artists doing a wonderful chalk drawing, and which children can participate in. And we're going to be having some artist demonstrations. And our kiosks we have 2 kiosks out on Rotary Square, are going to have 2 wonderful installation pieces by 2 local Lethbridge artists. So it's a really fun time. We are obviously very conscious of safety, and so we're moving a lot of our stuff outside. We're also going to have a big party on the night of Gallery Stroll out in Rotary Square. Again, a live band, a bar. It's going to be a fun night. So if you're in Lethbridge, please do come down. But again, if you're interested in participating, my email is projects@artslethbridge.org, and I would love to have some more applications. So yeah, so that's everything that's going on here in Lethbridge right now, and it's really exciting, and we're trying to support local artists through this very challenging time. So we have 3 amazing speakers tonight, all amazing women, all successful, all have wonderful information to impart to us. So I'm going to introduce our first speaker, Jessica Sanderson-Barry with JShine Designs. And take it away, Jessica.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Can you guys hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. I'm Jess. I'm with JShine Designs. So my Cree name is Grandmother Golden Eagle. I'm from Chakastaypasin Band, a Treaty 6 territory. So that's about 45 minutes east of Prince Albert. And I currently reside and work out of my home in Edmonton, Alberta. So kind of like a little bit of background about me is I actually recently resigned from my position. I used to work in accounting finance background. So now I'm full artist, full time for the last month or so. So it's really like kind of transitioning into this different kind of role. And so I'm really enjoying that. And I'd like to thank you all for inviting me today. So I know like you've reached out to me, and I'm just sharing my journey of how JShine Designs kind of went from just kind of like a side hustle to that transition to actually having my own website. So today's theme is how to get paid. And keeping in mind, so based on like my journey, just kind of a quick snapshot is JShine Designs is just basically just I do custom beadwork, as you can see right there. That's a snapshot of my website. So I use a lot of elements from the land in my work, and I thought it was just important at that time. About 2 years ago, my website launched through Wix, September 2018. So that's a little bit about JShine in the background, just kind of a snapshot. But first, before you get paid, first we just, I want to talk about laying that foundation, and also what that process is about getting paid and what that kind of looks like. And then we'll roll into questions. So then the next slide, we'll go to just talking about laying the foundation and getting paid. And I want you to guys keep in mind that, again, I do live in the province of Alberta. And so I'm going to talk about my personal experience, so that may be different in other provinces. So first, what I did is initially in 2018, I went to my local registries and I registered my trade name, which was JShine Designs. And so with that in mind, I was kind of like bouncing around about like what my actually name was going to be. So just keep in mind when you are registering your trade name, just be 100% confident in knowing that that name, you can use it all across every platform. So it's available on Facebook, you know, all your social platforms like IG. And then watch for errors on the trade name certificate, because this was huge for me, and it happened. So they kind of messed up on my name, JShine Designs. And so I took that certificate, and then step 2, I went to open a business account. And they actually rejected me because I didn't, the J wasn't there, it just said Shine Designs, and it was so like chaotic. And so I had to eventually go back to the registries, change that, blah, blah, blah. So that was like a lesson learned. So in terms of opening up a bank account, there are a lot of banks out there that have, that are really, some are actually even free. I know the bank that I've decided to go with, they had a free e-commerce banking account. So it's just like a limited amount of transactions, which I didn't need a lot for my business at the time. So, and then another thing to keep in mind is, for me, what works is I keep my personal and my business expenses separate. And I think that's really important. I think, like, coming from, like, you know, a finance and accounting background, for me, is just really kind of keeping those reconciliations like separate. And it really helps me and maintain my books. So the third step then, so you got your trade name, you open your own business account, and the third is research. This is really extremely important on what, maybe ask other artists who are practicing in your area, who do have websites, about what their thoughts are, whether they're with Shopify, they're with Wix, or other platforms. I think that's really important. And then see how those platforms play into your social media. For example, I'll talk about Wix more, but I went with Wix essentially, but Shopify, which is a huge platform, they actually have the ability, if you say you post like an item for sale on Instagram, and you can see, like, you can like click on it to see how much that item is. Whereas like Wix, unfortunately, they don't have that platform and that capability. So that's what I kind of missing out on. So with your research, just make sure you research like how much you're going to pay a month for your website, and make sure you can that's cost effective for your business. And then you're 100% sure with that decision, because again, I went with Wix for a 3-year, I signed up for a 3-year contract with them. So then once you do that, you actually have to make sure that when you do secure your website host, make sure your domain is available. So that's whatever JShineDesigns.ca and .com was available, but I went with CA, I think, just because it's more, you know what, I'm not even sure, it just look good, look fancy. So anyways, so that's like laying your foundation before you actually want to launch your website. So the next slide, we're actually going to talk about getting paid. I know, like, when I launched my website, there's a lot of back end stuff that needs to happen before you go live, and you need to make sure you do due diligence and making sure you check off everything and everything runs smoothly. Because what had happened was in 2018, when I was supposed to launch, I think September 5th, it didn't go live. It was just a disaster. I was just like, what's going on? And I launched it on a Friday, and I couldn't get tech support until Monday. So I really sat on that all weekend, and I was just like, felt defeated. I was just really upset. I didn't know what was going on. But what had happened was I had signed up for an email. So that's like a specific email, like info@jshinedesigns.ca. And I signed up for that, I believe, a couple weeks before I launched. And I somehow got screwed up with the algorithm of the website on the back end. So that was one of the reasons why it kind of just didn't go live. I don't know. But anyways, long story short, it went live the following week. And that was that. So before your site goes live, just check your backend system. So first, your shipping, especially if you're like shipping out a product. I know I've seen some, like, there's a couple people who practice beadwork. Make sure you have these. I incorporated a local pickup, so that's free, and I made sure that's free. A Canadian flat rate, which I charge about $17.95, straight across the board. International orders are $20. So in Wix, how it works is they have actually templates that you can pick and, you know, design the layout of your website however you want. But pretty much on your dashboard, you have a shipping in the menu bar, so you can like figure out like what your shipping items will look like. And they also have a taxes kind of area too, where you can actually incorporate the taxes. So for me in Alberta, and then me as a business, like CRA requires me to charge GST, HST, just because if you make over $30,000 a year, you have to start remitting GST, whether that's quarterly or yearly. So making sure you have those checked off, and you set up and then the bank account that you secured earlier on, making sure that you check your bank account and making sure your bank account number is correct. Like I would check it like 5 times, because you want to make sure you're getting paid and that money is going into your account. So that's kind of like the logistics of just small back-end stuff that you have to kind of do that the consumer doesn't necessarily see. So when, in terms of payment, I had already set up a Square machine. So it's like a little Square. I don't have it around me, but I use that at my markets. And since I've already had it, I've already had the account, but I believe that takes a few days to set up. And just to them, like to verify your bank account is like correct and stuff. So on the back end, you, in Wix, because that's who I have my website host through, is I just make sure that I've added Square, but I do have the capability of adding PayPal and Stripe. So with those, you have to make sure that you keep in mind that you build the cost of the transaction fee in your item. And I think that's really important, because for Square, for example, they have a 2.65% fee. So every $100 that are coming in, they're taking $2.65 of that. So you just need to build that into your cost. And then another option of as a POS option is actually e-transfer. E-transfer, I did try that out once or twice, but that's really become problematic for me, just because how my sales worked was I have launch days, and I just release like say like 50 pieces all at once at a specific time. I did have at one point an e-transfer option, and what had happened was someone checked off e-transfer, but the item didn't actually go out of stock, and that item kept on selling. And then I was stuck like, oh my God, like these custom pieces, now I have to like recreate them. So I think like even like for artists who work with beadwork, that custom work, I think that's extremely like, I wouldn't recommend doing the e-transfer thing unless you're doing like a direct to direct sale, whether that's through your IG or your Facebook. That's when e-transfers work, but through Wix, like I wouldn't recommend that at all. So definitely like in terms of those point of sale options, I know Square has the little Square scanner thing, what it's called, but it's only like $60, right? So having that really kind of helped me establish like getting a payment system onto my website, because it was my account was already set up. So as you're doing this all in the back end, you want to make sure you do a test run. And I think this is so critical. Even like doing an item for say for 25 cents and going through that process as a consumer, because you want to make sure like that whole process from the consumer has it in their cart, and then to purchase, put in your credit card information, and then they get an email confirmation, you get an email confirmation. You want to make sure that system is like 100% like legit, and like it's there's no errors or anything. And I think, and just in making sure that 25 cents is actually deposited into your account, because you don't want to go live and then just figure out like, oh my God, like this, there's so many errors and stuff. So you just want to kind of be proactive and just making sure everything works smoothly. So in terms of like secured order, now what? So your order comes in, and depending, like for me, for JShine Designs, what's worked really well is I'll have launch dates. And I mentioned this earlier, but I feel like when I do like a batch, it just kind of like hypes people up, and it gets people like excited, like, oh my God, I need to go log on at 5 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Like, I think that's really worked well for me. And then I'll release that batch of orders. So as orders come in, I'm actually literally sitting at my my computer, and as orders are coming in, oh, it's telling me to stop, but just give me a few more minutes. So as orders are coming in, I'm just like checking, and then Wix has a capability of me taking it off my store. So as orders are coming in, I'm taking it off so people can't view those items anymore. And I think this was really critical for me, because there was one point in time where I don't know if Wix had a glitch or anything, but there was a few items that sold more than a few times. And now I'm just kind of like get really wary about like checking my inventory levels and making sure they keep track of that. So that's important. I think just a challenge is just watch your inventory levels and make sure you check that little box, like, and then everything should be good. So as the order secured, I print my my order for my records, and then I get an email confirmation immediately saying, you know, this is a confirmed sale. And then it tells me how much they're taking off, how much I should get. And payment for me, like if I have a sale Sunday at 5 o'clock, and majority of those transactions are between 5 and 6, and it will be in my bank account between 1 and 2 days. And then in terms of money in the bank, it's important for you to print out your online report, and comparing that to, say, because I deal with Square, like Square has their own report, but then also the bank, like do all three of those amounts like add up. And this is important because sometimes, you know, I caught an error once, but they rectified it. But it's just important that you do your due diligence, that you're getting like the correct money in your bank. And then once you get the money in bank, then what I'll do is I'll actually do my shipping labels, and I'll ship out to those customers. So pretty much that's like, I gave you like all that information like in like 15 minutes, but I definitely am open for questions. But before I do that, I just wanna kind of just provide everything in a snapshot again. I think it's important to do your research on what website hosts, because that's really important. Like if I were to turn back time, I would have went with Shopify. And I know that I'm going to be making that transition to Shopify, but I think like that's my only sole decision and what I kind of think what's best for my business, but because they just have so much capabilities that Wix doesn't have. But again, Wix was more like a cost effective, like in terms of how much I'm paying them a month for that website to host my JShine Designs. So definitely like before you go out and shop for your website host, like just think about what your intentions are, who's your target market, and then of course like watch for fees and build those fees into your cost of the items sold. So in terms of like Wix, I think I pay like between $200 and $250 like an annual fee, but then also I have to pay the Square fees, the 2.65. So just keeping those in mind. and just building your costs into that. So if you have any questions, I'm here. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Jessica. That was a lot of information and some really great information, lessons learned. Does anyone have any questions at this time? I don't see anything in the Q&A box, but I do have Laureen has her hand up. So Laureen, if you wanted to pop if you had a question, if you wanted to pop it in the Q&A or the chat box would be fine too. And for those who've joined us after we got our intro started, we are recording today's session, and we will also post this to YouTube, and we will share it on the Allied Arts Council Facebook page, and I will email it to Jocelyn with Arts and Culture branch, but I will also email everyone who has registered tomorrow with the link to the YouTube video. So we do have a question from Shayona. So Jessica, do you think it's better to sell on Etsy or make your own website?
Okay, so I guess I should back up a bit. Like originally when I was selling back in 2008 or 17-ish, I was just selling direct through my Instagram and Facebook, which was taking a lot of my time. And I thought like, because I was just like that communication back with the customer, like, oh, what colors do you want? What style? What, you know, you need, what's your shipping address? What's your email? Like all those details. It was just taking a lot of time. So I thought like, okay, I was going to go to Etsy, but then I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to be ambitious. I was so scared, but I just decided to do my own website. And finding a website host that had templates, and of course, like, you know, Wix has beautiful templates and it's just so user friendly, as well as Shopify. So I think like I can attest to like selling on Etsy, but I know of other Indigenous artists who do sell on Etsy and they sell out. But then keep in mind, Etsy has their own fees, right? And I'm not too sure how that works or how that's built in, but definitely like what was right at the time was just having my own website and doing my own launches and just incurring those costs like of Square and then the Wix fees.
Excellent. And then Lorene asked if you will know the cost to transfer to Shopify. What will the cost to transfer Shopify will be?
Yeah. Okay, so how it works with the domain, right? I was talking, like you can secure your domain. I think I secured it for 3 years. So once that 3 years is coming close, I'm gonna watch that date because I don't want that my domain to be lost or picked up by other people who secure them. And I've heard like a horror story. Like I had another Indigenous artist friend who had her domain, but she wasn't upkeeping with the date when it expired. So what had happened was there was a company who bought her domain and then had that, but then wanted to sell it to her for more. Like, I don't know. It was just really crazy. But anyways, this domain, I have it for 3 years. So now it's coming next June. But before that, I have to make that transition. So basically not renewing my fee with Wix because it's an annual subscription. I'll be done my 3 years with Wix, but also now just starting that process all over again, signing up for Shopify and then building the website and just doing from the ground up.
Excellent, thank you. And I have a question from Laurel, which might actually be a good panel question at the end for all 3 of you to participate in. But her question is just, I'll read it out so you can think about it. How do you build a customer base from scratch? Laurel lives in a city and it's difficult for her to market with her own community. So I think that might be a question for the 3 of you. So Laurel, if you're okay, we'll get to that at the end. Are there any other questions? We don't have any other questions for Jessica, so I think we will move on to our next panelist, and I think that's Tara, who will be doing the introduction. And I will move back a few slides. There we are. And then Vicki, you'll also take over the screen share.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to introduce Vicki Vershinsky, who is a designer, ceramicist, and lead organizer of the Royal Bison Art and Craft Fair. After her graphic design education was complete, she eschewed the corporate world for an independent design, art, and maker practice. Her Mezzaluna Studios textiles and homewares are sold across North America and on online sales platforms like Etsy. In March 2020, due to the pandemic, Vicki pivoted the in-person Royal Bison Art and Craft Fair to an online-only event, creating opportunity for over 100 vendors to sell their wares in a moment when regular retail was almost entirely shut down, and heard nothing but glowing comments about that event, Vicki. It was fabulous. She is based in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and take it away, Vicki.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for that. Sorry, I'm hearing an echo through the Zoom. Is that better? Is there no echo now? We're good? Okay. Yeah, thank you, Tara, for that introduction. My name is Vicki Vershinsky, and I am quite a few things, and I sell a lot of my creative artwork online, and I run a craft fair that currently runs online, so I hope I have a few things to share for you. Jess really touched on a lot of the details of how you would sell your work online. It was really great. It was really granular. My presentation is slightly more about the overarching kind of goals that you've got as a maker and how you can get paid with that. So I'm just going to share my screen here. Sorry, one second. You know, I am a graphic designer and I use programs like this all the time, and I still can't remember how to go full screen on, there it is, on preview. There we go. So I'm Vicki Vershinsky. My handles are below for the relevant things. So on Instagram, I'm Mezzaluna Studio. You know, we also have Royal Bison, which is two things that we're talking about. So yeah, I, for the last 10 years, have been the lead organizer of the Royal Bison. It's a very craft fair here in Edmonton. It's a kind of a long story as to how I inherited this craft fair. I didn't start it, but I did come up within it as a vendor. And when the original organizing group the lead organizer moved away to Montreal, as people do, we wound up taking it over as a few vendors, and that was in 2010. And of those original vendor organizers, I'm the last one sort of involved in the, you know, kind of help has turned over the years. But yeah, I'm still here, and I'm incredibly passionate about getting designers and artists and crafters into opportunities where they can support themselves through sale of their work. Sorry, I have a kitten, and she just jumped up. I'm sorry, cat bomb. Okay, so yeah, I run the Royal Bison. This is a true passion of mine, and work that I truly find so much joy in doing. It's been around for 12 years now. You know, over time, you know, we've kind of changed identities and looks and introduced tote bags, and it's just become you know, a semi-annual event in Edmonton that at this point I think people can rightly call an institution, and I'm really proud to be part of it. When it first started, we had, you know, maybe 1,000 people through the door if we were lucky. It was a 2-day event twice a year, and now, you know, we've grown it into a 3,000 visitor a weekend event. You know, about 70 vendors. We have 3 really great design programs in Edmonton, and it produces young, you know, and art programs as well, and it produces people who have ideas and who want to make product and want to show it and sell it, and you know, keep on going in making. And we're really proud to be the venue for that in Edmonton, and to keep things affordable for people to be able to experiment and not feel trapped in such high table fees that there's no opportunity to try something new or take a risk. So we're really really into supporting our community. And of course, we've always been in person. You know, this is what the Royal Bison has always looked like. It's always been in the same venue. And unfortunately, of course, because of the pandemic, we had to go online in May. So we, you know, obviously with gathering restrictions being what they are, having 3,000 people in a building was just not going to happen. And we had two options. And one of them was to cancel the spring 2020 fair, which happened in May. And the other was to figure out somehow how to go online. And I was probably waiting for that moment for my entire career. I think, like, I'm trained as a graphic designer. I designed websites for a time in the early part of my career. And I'll get into a moment. I'm also a maker and I'm also a crafter, and I have been selling my work online since probably 2006 or so. So we are, you know, we were kind of in this moment where I knew that it was possible to sell things online. I knew we just had to figure out how to scale it up to 100 people or 100 vendors, and we did. There's, you know, I think I grew some gray hair getting it all together, but it did work. And we have learned a lot of lessons from that, and there's a lot of things that I can kind of impart to you about the details of selling online as well. But just before we get into that, I'm also a maker and a designer and a crafter. A crafter, I don't mean that in the Michaels way. I mean that in the fine craft way. I am a ceramicist as well. So this is kind of where I've ended up. I'm a lapsed graphic designer. I don't do that much graphic design anymore for other clients, but what has come of that is that I design patterns and textiles, and I have that work manufactured sustainably for me. So, you know, I get cards printed with my design work on them. This is a recent collection that I made. You know, I have wooden trays and the tea towel, which has been my mainstay for almost a decade now. So my brand is called Mezzalina Studio, and it is all about the joy of shape and color. And it's something that, you know, I always had a deep love of design and pattern, and you know, I design paper goods as well. So this is kind of the sorts of things that I sell online as part of my income for a year. You know, I'm not independently wealthy. I do need to figure out how to support myself, and, you know, with my creativity. And this is kind of how I've gotten to this point, and how I'm able to essentially create a career out of pattern design and surface design. So I create these objects for sale and for the joy of it. I'm also a ceramicist, so it's quite new, but I was lucky enough to do a residency at the Banff Center a few years ago, and fell headfirst into ceramics, a medium I knew nothing about. And now, you know, there's a kiln in my basement, and I wake up really early every morning and make objects. So this is some new work that I work on, you know, a few pieces. So anyway, this is me like 15 years ago, pulling all-nighters. So when I went to design school, I learned how to silkscreen, which is how this all happened. I wound up, here I am silkscreening some paper agendas that I'd made, and I wound up turning around and selling them at the Royal Bison as a new vendor. I wasn't an organizer yet. You know, I kind of had the skills to silkscreen, and what happened was that I kind of figured out kind of packaging. This is very old work. And I sold it all at this craft fair. And what happened was that I sold out, and I realized, this is probably around 2008 or so, that I could maybe potentially support myself off of selling things at craft fairs. And right at the same time, Etsy became a thing. I think it actually launched in 2005. So my own kind of creative career has followed the rise of selling things online. And between craft fairs and selling online, and sort of creating products that work in that environment, I've been lucky enough to be self-employed doing it, which is really my dream, and it's basically what I want to keep doing. You know, I do sell online. I do have a Shopify store. It is something I grew into, you know. I think Jess was talking about being on Wix at first and eventually realized that not all the bells and whistles are there, and you want, you know, tech is kind of never done. You can start somewhere and wind up in another place eventually. It's not you know, any kind of decision you make online isn't permanent, right? But along the way, you know, there's a lot to learn about how to sell online, you know, and how to support yourself. So basically that's where I come from, and that's how I've kind of created this creative life that I have, and how I'm supporting myself. And so I think that really the key thing that I had to learn for myself, and very quickly, was that, you know, you can make the work. This is your main job. It doesn't matter if you're a ceramicist, if you're a sculptor, if you're in beadwork, if you're, you know, pick a medium, right? If you're a painter, your job is to make the work. But, you know, without marketing the work, I don't know how far you're going to get. And you have to let people know about how your work, that your work exists, what it looks like. And, you know, many artists don't want to, or find it really outside of their scope of understanding of how to market their work. But it is really important to think that the marketing of your work is at least, you know, your part-time job on top of your full-time job, which is to make the work. But it is very important to connect with an audience, to create an audience for yourself, and show them the work that you're making. And it is a lot of work. It's not quick. It's not always the easiest, or the most efficient in the use of your time. And sometimes I genuinely feel like I'd rather be in the studio than posting things to Instagram. But you do need to remind people that, you know, you're making the work. So, you know, when you're making the work, I think you need to, of course, create the piece that you're working on. But within that, I think you also have to keep track of the time that you're spending making a piece. You have to plan its price, you know, kind of in relation to the amount of time you're spending on it, especially if it's a one-off piece. You know, and I have a note here about making smaller multiples. So, you know, I do make ceramics and I do sell them. But I also have other ventures like the tea towel, which is a design I made and that I spent a really long time on. But it's a multiple. It's, you know, it's an edition of 100 of them, and they're made for me. And in that way, I can sort of create more time for myself to make art, which is what is sort of the goal of being a creative person, right? Is to find that time to find a way to support yourself, and also to experiment, to make new things. So, you know, when you're creating your work, you do need to think about factors of price and time. And often I think you shouldn't start a piece thinking about selling it. I don't know if that's like honest, you know, in terms of making art. It could be, but I mean, to think about how much effort you're putting into something versus what you can sort of sell it for to a customer is an important part of being in business. And you know, supporting yourself does mean being in business. So there's also, you know, between making the work, you also have to market the work. And so again, that's that part-time job that we all have that we don't want, but we have it anyway, you know. And someone had asked on the Q&A actually about talking about how to create an audience. So creating audiences and engaging with them, there's a lot of ways to do it. You know, you can take part in group exhibitions or group sales, like a craft fair or something, right? Or you know, your craft council might have an exhibition you could show in. Posting to Instagram really regularly. So the more you kind of put into Instagram, the more you get out of there. And I mentioned Instagram specifically because it is a venue for photographs and for good for good pictures of your work, you know. And I don't know if you're going to get the same kind of feedback from Twitter. Facebook could potentially be a good medium as well, but I specifically single out Instagram as the #1 way to build an audience around visual artwork. You know, and you can post the same picture over again or a different angle of the same idea. Actually, repeating yourself is actually a really good thing. It puts more information into a social media feed, and it also keeps you top of mind. You know, it reminds people that you exist, because essentially it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, right? So you're keeping up in kind of marketing, you're keeping up a conversation with people. Every time you post may not be every time that you get a sale, but someone will go, oh, right, JShine, you know what? I really love her earrings. And I think, you know, it's my mom's birthday next month. And like, I'm glad I remembered that, you know what, I'm gonna get a hold of her in 2 weeks. You just kind of have to continue existing and being in people's sort of thoughts, and posting to a social media platform really regularly is a very important way to start that. You know, you should probably, if we ever go back to real life craft sales, you know, keeping a mailing list, asking people for their email addresses in exchange for like a draw or something is really important, because then you have their email address and they've indicated that they're interested in you. And every once in a while, like not that often, maybe once a month, once every 2 months, you can actually email people and say, here's some new things, you know, or there's a sale coming up or whatnot. You know, it's good to have people's email addresses. You know, keeping an online store stocked, and I have a slide about online store options in a second. So make sure everything's not sold out, or you know, that there's not very many pieces there, or things are 3 years old and all your new pieces are just on Instagram or something like that. Making sure that when someone clicks on your website that they can get a good sense of what you make right away is really important. You know, you can tell your story. So you don't necessarily always just have to post pictures of your work. You can post pictures of yourself and say like, oh, you know, like, hi, you know, I'm Vicky, and here's my story, and here's how I got to where I am now. I think people really like hearing about you as a person. Some of the best advice I ever got was just show what you want to sell. Like if you have an item that you would like to sell to someone online or in person or at a craft show, you know, make it prominently displayed. Make sure people know that it exists, right? And, you know, the internet specifically, but also in real life as well, you know, promotional postcards, things like that. Taking good photographs is really, really key. And it's become more and more important over the last 10 years to make sure that, you know, you've got some really great pictures of your work. And it's actually less difficult than you think to get a pretty decent shot. Most people's cameras on their phones have some decent resolution on them. You know, you can just put your item on a white piece of paper against some natural light in a window and you'll get a pretty good shot of whatever it is. But taking good photographs is really key, and there's lots of resources on the internet for that too. So where you make those sweet sales, in person and online, right? There's 2 options. So in person at your local craft council, right? Through your retailers and your stockists, at your local craft fair. You know, if you have a studio, maybe once a year in the winter, you know, you have your own studio sale before Christmas or something like that. And then of course online Etsy, which I'll go into a second, I think is potentially important to be on outside of having a store on your own website. So Etsy, your own website, so you can use Shopify, you can use Squarespace, you can use Square, 2 different things, Wix, like Jess was mentioning, and, you know, and other online platforms. And what I mean by that is, you know, possibly like your local craft fair has gone online, and that becomes a platform for your work. So the problem we have right now is that almost everything in person has been completely pandemicked, right? Like we don't have really a lot of opportunities to just go shop for fun on a Saturday afternoon. You know, the local craft fair isn't happening in person. You know, your studio sale probably won't happen this year in the same way. It just doesn't seem safe, right? So specifically in the environment we're in right now, online is incredibly important. And so, you know, there's some sales platforms to consider, and mostly my message to you is like, you should be online with your work. The rest of the world is online right now. They're scrolling to the end of their feeds. They're, you know, online shopping like crazy. And ultimately, if the goal here is to get paid to, you know, make your work again, make more work, you need to connect with customers somehow. And there's often a lot of ways to do that, you know, kind of by yourself. And many makers and designers and artists have made their work, have, you know, built audiences by themselves, you know, and there's a kind of a constellation of sort of places you should be connected to as a maker or designer, right? So not only do you build your own audience with your own website, you know, you're on an international platform like Etsy, and you know, you're at your local craft fair, or your local craft council also sends out marketing about you and things like that. So you kind of have to be in a lot of places at once. So, you know, in terms of online sales, which are very important right now, you know, using your own website. So it's a good idea to have a shop section on your own website, even if you never really make a sale off your own website. You know, whenever you go to someone's shop website and they have a shop, I always click on it just to have a really quick idea of what their work looks like and how much it costs and that kind of thing. So it's like kind of like a good marketing tool in and of itself. It reminds people that these things are for sale. You know, you don't have to sell everything you make. Like keeping some work for exhibitions, you know, etc., just personally to keep it in your archive, or that it might be something bigger, you know. But essentially, you know, we produce more than we consume, right? And so how to make sure that that gets into the hands of appreciative customers, appreciative people who love your work, and that you can continue on to make and create another day in terms of paying your rent and you know, cooking, you know, maybe going out for dinner every once in a while, you know, like these things are important to kind of build into your life and to make happen. So you know, keep some of your work, sell some of your work, you know, and consider having a line of items like I do with my tea towels that are multiples, that could be wholesaled to stores, you know, in addition to your gallery work, which is kind of a slightly different stream of work and may take longer to sell, that kind of thing. So Etsy, I just wanted to touch on Etsy. I think it is valuable to be on Etsy. It's built an audience of customers that are really interested in unique things, and they've been around for like 15 years basically. So their fee structure is reasonable. It unfortunately, I mean, it costs money to make money these days for the most part, you know, like Etsy's fees are kind of around 10% or so, but what you have in exchange is a really well-known website that customers go to because they're looking for something really unique. So there's a lot of US buyers on it. It's very US heavy. So, you know, it can be a huge way to reach other audiences. The con is that it's a huge site, so your work can get lost. So this is where, you know, like just in terms of like if someone like Google's like beadwork or Etsy searches beadwork, you know, there may be 300 beadwork artists on Etsy, and to kind of make sure that your work stands out, it's also important to make sure that you're pushing the information that you are on Etsy to your own audience, right, online, which we talked about. You know, you're posting to Instagram, you have a MailChimp email list, and all of that's really important to kind of put together. But Etsy, I think, should be either your main platform, or you should be on both your own website and Etsy. Considering, because they just have a completely different audience and they're there for kind of really interesting things. They used to be called Regretsy back in the day. Like I think somewhere in there Etsy started, and then it just became full of like really bad craft. There was a blog about it. And they've done a lot of work to kind of bring back independent designers and artists into the Etsy fold, and I think that their quality is a lot better. I don't think there's any problem with somebody selling on Etsy anymore, but there was for a while. Anyway, they fixed it. And then, of course, other online platforms, right? So your local in-person craft fair might have gone online in the last 6 months. I'm just saying, it's probably worth checking. You know, your local craft council may have gone online in the last 6 months. You should probably check with them if there's opportunities to upload a few products, you know? And yeah, like, you know, even like Jess was saying, like your Instagram account is always available to sell things on, right? So it's as easy as posting a picture of an item and saying, you know, shoot me a direct message, and, you know, if you e-transfer me, I'll mail it to you. Here's the price, right? Like there's many direct like ways to sell to people. So there's a lot of different platforms, and you eventually tier upwards and figure out what works for you. But it does take a little bit of experimentation and time. It's a marathon, not a sprint, but it's also where everybody's buying things these days, and we need to sell things to live. So these are my tips for you. Yeah, so that's it. Again, I'm Vicki Wersinski, and these are my Instagram handles if you want to give me a follow and let me know if there's any questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Vicki. That was amazing. We do have a few questions directed for you. Let me just get my Q&A screen here. So Lorraine does have a question regarding if a vendor is using Royal Bison to sell their items, how do you collect, or sorry, how do they collect for the sales, and how are things being shipped?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a structure. It's new, but at the moment, you know, the Royal Bison handles paying its vendors after the fair is over. So we act as a middleman, or essentially like a store. And then, you know, like you might consign something at a shop, and you don't get paid for 30 days or something like that. That's how we handle that part. And what we also do is with the shipping is that, so we don't have any stock ourselves. All our vendors ship from their own studios. So they basically, it's essentially this drop shipping, which is the phrase. So we basically have kind of a potpourri of apps within Shopify that helps us kind of let vendors know when they've gotten an order, and they get an email, and in that email they get kind of the address and the item and the customer's email and all that kind of thing, and they go from there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Excellent, thank you. And then Barbara has a question. What percentage of your time do you spend on marketing versus making work?
Yeah, I mean, I spend more time making work than I do marketing. I'd probably say 25%, 30% of my work life is spent marketing. And within that, I count like emailing retailers, designing catalogs, line sheets, that kind of thing, right? There's kind of a lot that goes on behind the scenes. Depends. I mean, it depends on the month. It depends on the time of year. But I do definitely try to find a lot of, you know, obviously like I want my job in life to be creative. Mm-hmm. I want it, you know, I want to be a visual maker. I want to be a designer. But you know, the necessary evil of that is that also you need to market, right? And I don't know, I mean, some people really love it. Yeah. I don't mind it, but you know, if I could choose between one and the other, I would probably prefer to be designing more, right? Yeah. So yeah, you know, it's much less than half, but it is a significant part of my life, and it's the only way that I can keep this whole bus going, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that might be at a point where if somebody is really successful, is there an opportunity to partner with someone who needs also a designer or a marketer too? And are there then ways that you can share some of those costs and actually have someone do that for you? That's a question that I would have, right? Mm-hmm. But I think there's also lots of resources available to help folks with marketing, right? Laurel has a question. Is selling on Royal Bison strictly for vendors located in Alberta, or do you have vendors from across Canada as well?
Yeah, so we are majority local. I would say that 85 to 90% of our vendor base is from Edmonton and area. That being said, over the years, we've also, I don't know, just some, we have Calgarians who've joined, we've had Lethbridgians who've joined, Alberta is fair game. We've also had some vendors from Saskatoon and interior BC join us. We're really, we have a jury, we curate for a particular style of product. And, regionally that makes sense. When we had space capacity, I mean, obviously online we kind of have unlimited space, but not unlimited administrative opportunities. So, I mean, there is like a limit to how many people we can take on. But before, we actually had a constraint to how many vendors we could have in the building. And so we had some like really great vendors apply, from as far east as like Winnipeg East basically, and ultimately we kind of had to draw the line at being a more prairie region fair, and sort of the snapshot that we were working on was of kind of our area. So that is sort of where we lie. Our customers really hope to support Edmontonians and regional folk.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. So it doesn't look like we have any more questions for Vicki. We still do have, and Vicki, you kind of did address this in terms of how to build a customer base from scratch, but we'll still leave that in the Q&A as unanswered throughout the rest. So Tara, if you want to pop back in and you'll introduce our final speaker.
Hello. I'm going to introduce Trish Hoskin. I'm just going to brief bio about Trish, and there we go. Hi, everybody. She has been crocheting for over 20 years and designing her own patterns for most of the time. She learned to crochet and do that, and it came in handy when her kids came along. She could continue to be creative without worrying about setting out and cleaning up for anyone else, and pursue this little business. And now she creates patterns and custom orders full time. And I also want to point out that Trish does sell with us at the Allied Arts Council's Fine Arts and Crafts store. And in the past 2 weeks, Trish has sold, I think, over 24 items. She is exceptionally popular in our store, and we need her to keep producing lots of stuff because we keep selling it. So now Trish.
Hello, can you guys see me?
No.
Okay, because I can't see me either. But I don't know how to do that. Is there, can you see me now?
Not yet. I've just, I've asked you to start your video.
Okay, sorry you guys.
That's okay.
My daughter was using this, and I don't know, she didn't turn the things back. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really sorry.
No, that's okay.
I need to get on here.
So can you see what's on, can you see us when I do the screen share?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. So you want me to go to your website, right?
Well, sure. Yeah, that would be fine. I'm just not sure how to get myself on here, guys. Sorry. So that's me. Those are my eyes. All right. Well, I'll just start talking. I think we're just not going to worry too much about me showing up here. So thanks, first of all, for inviting me to join you. That's pretty awesome, and I'm super excited that my pieces are selling at the shop there. That's pretty cool. The last two panelists had so much good information and really touched on a lot of things that I wanted to touch on, but as they were talking, there is a few things that I can share that maybe haven't been shared yet. I started my online work in 2010, selling online, just on, had a little Facebook page, and I was selling just to local people. And then I started to work full-time again and didn't pay too much attention to my little business until probably about 2017. And that's when I went onto Etsy. And I've had a lot of success on Etsy. COVID was crazy for sales for me, and I've heard that that's how it went for other sellers as well. So then, but I wanted to take more ownership of my work and of the messaging of my work. And so in June or July 1st, I launched this website, and this is through Weebly. So I had spent a good, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks trying to work out how to use Shopify. And I was really struggling. I'd heard that it was really good. I heard that it was Canadian. I had heard that the POS, the point of sale, is really great. Everything you need is there. And I just could not seem to figure out how to build my site quickly and efficiently. So I'm sure there's a way, but I didn't figure it out. And so I had worked with Weebly in the past, and was like, and it's just so easy. Weebly is super easy. So with Weebly, what I'm really working on right now is designing patterns. And so I can sell my patterns on Weebly. And what happens with Weebly is that you put in the number that you have available. So if you do have multiples of something, then you can put in that you have, say you have 5 items of that, then you can say that you have 5 items, and as they get sold, that number goes down. So you're never worrying about selling something that you don't have in stock. But I wanted to, so that's what I do for my website. And then I'm on Facebook and Instagram as well. And I sell lots of Instagram, I sell lots of, like, people direct message me. And then, see, that's me there, yeah. So people will direct message me, and I do a lot of just custom work through Instagram and Facebook. And that's usually through e-transfer. And so, but what I wanted to talk about is pricing. So I just had this conversation with another maker very recently about how do you determine prices? And that is a really, really, I don't know what the answer is. It's really tricky. Some makers have a formula where they will factor in the time that they spend making, or along with the materials. And I find for myself with crochet, like, it just takes so long that I just don't think I would make very many sales if I charged in that way. But I also need to feel that, like, I don't want to be resentful about charging too little, and I've definitely done that. So over the years, I've managed to build my own following. It's a small following, but build my own following. They're, like, so supportive, and they're willing to pay the prices that I say. And those that aren't able or willing to pay those prices, they just move on, and that's fine. But I do get chosen lots. Like, I do crochet full time. So my wait list right now is going into October. But that's been, like, 10 years of building up and building my skills to be able to charge what I do. But also in terms of marketing, because I'm kind of an old lady, and I don't really know, like, I don't know a lot of, like, marketing, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram, but that's about it for my social media. So what I've found the biggest thing for me has been connecting with people, like, on a personal level, and that can be in person. That can be like at what are they called, like markets, and or even just by Instagram and Facebook or email. So just having that personal connection seems to be really important. Another thing that I found for marketing, and I sort of built my business in a way that it sort of, I wanted to reflect sort of my own values. And so I want it to be, I do want to make money. I want to pay the bills. I have 2 teenage girls. I want to do all those things, but I also want to contribute. And so one thing that I did last, I don't know, I think it was March and April, is I did a fundraiser for the food bank. And I made a bunch of Dr. Dinas. So yeah, there she is right there. So I made a bunch of these Dr. Dinas and like custom ordered. And then I gave like, I think I gave $30 from the sale of each Dr. Dina to the food bank. And it ended up being, in the end, we made about $2,000 for the food bank. Now what had happened was I had done a Facebook ad for this, and I think I spent $20, and I ended up getting, and I think I put it all throughout Alberta, and because you can define like the area that that you want. So I put it all through Alberta. And Dr. Dina, by the way, if you're not from Alberta, she's our chief medical doctor, and she became kind of a hero for a lot of us. So, so anyways, I did a Facebook ad for her, and that got shared. And over, I think I want to say over 30,000 people, that reached over 30,000 people in Alberta. So then what happened was I got lots of new Facebook followers on my page, and Global News in Edmonton picked it up and did a little story on it. And so that was really good. And that was just out of, you know, wanting to contribute, but when you do that, you're also like, it's great to, you know, to kind of share that because people love it. So I've done that. I did a fundraiser for the Australian wildlife back in January with the wildfires. I had a pattern for a koala bear that I gave to fellow makers that they could use for, you know, for a fundraiser for themselves. And all of the sales for that pattern also went to an animal rescue organization in Australia. And let's see, so that's those things. And then I think there was something else I wanted to talk about. I don't know how much time I have here.
Trish, you can take as long as you'd like. We are a little bit over, but I think it's important that the key messages get out to the folks that are on the call today. I think the Zoom registration would have said that we are going until 7:30, so we still have about 13 minutes, and at this point we don't really have a lot of questions yet. So
okay,
keep on going and tell me what page you want me to go to next.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Just, yeah, I don't know. Like, you go to People and Pets. That one's a good one. So People and Pets, this is custom people and custom pets. So people send me pictures of their loved ones. And lots of them are like memorial pieces. And so the best sort of response I get back is that if they make people cry. So if I've made someone cry, it's a success for me, to me. But I did want to talk a little bit too about Weebly, my website, because with Weebly, it enables me to have a newsletter. And so people can sign up for my newsletter. And so that, the newsletter, the reason why you would want to sign up for the newsletter is because you will get discounts on my patterns, or I do a free pattern every month. So, but only the newsletter subscribers, yep, only, oh, well, just on the first page, actually on the home page at the bottom, it'll show you. But also if you click on it, click on the site, then there's a pop-up that comes up as well. But anyways, yeah, you subscribe to the newsletter, and then you get the latest news, you get discounts that no one else gets, you get patterns that no one else gets. And I haven't, like I said, I'm an old lady, so I haven't quite figured out like why I want to have a newsletter aside from connecting with people. But I think that they say that it's good to have a newsletter to build the community and just kind of keep in touch with your followers and your people. So that's and it's fun too. Like I like to share on the newsletter. I will share like the new patterns that are coming up, or what the free pattern will be next week, next month, and things like that. And I'm just looking at my notes here. Yeah, so just one thing as well about multiples, creating multiples, or items that are, I think the word is evergreen. So you create an item that you create once, and then it continues to bring you dollars. So for myself, that would be the patterns. So I spend a lot of time working on my patterns. I have a technical editor that I work with in New York, whose services are expensive but well worth it. And then I have pattern testers. I have a local one in Lethbridge who is absolutely amazing. Her work is amazing. And then I have other ones from all over the world actually that I ask to test my pattern. So yeah, so that's the sort of the process of going through creating a pattern. It's a long time, it's a long process. But once I've done that process, then I have this product that will continue to generate money, you know, and I don't have to keep making things. I don't have to keep crocheting things. I know for myself, I get really bored. And so if I have to make a bunch of things that are the same, that's tough for me. So all those Dr. Dina's, that was tough. It was a great cause, and she was super well received, but that was too many Dr. Dina's. So yeah, so that's one thing that I would say is like, look at what can you do, what can you create that is going to be something that can generate money, like you create it one time, and or like, you know, you don't have to put so much work into it each time you recreate it. So that's something really I think people should look at as well. And then I think just my advice is you have to start somewhere. So you just do it. Like you just, you know, it can seem overwhelming for sure. And I'm still figuring it out as I go. The website I'm still figuring out. Jessica is like a wizard, it sounds like, with accounting. And I don't know that stuff. Like you know, I have my little file folder, my little accordion folder where I keep all my bills and my receipts and stuff. And but I'm learning, right? So I learn as I go, and that's what you have to do. Like you just take one step at a time and just do something every day and be patient and consistent, and you know, just keep going, on it. And it's slow. Like for me, it was slow, and it continues to be slow, and that's fine with me actually. I'm okay with it being slow. It was a bit overwhelming there when sales were going crazy in the springtime there. That was uncomfortable. So yeah, so I think that's it for all I wanted to say. Yeah, I think I'm good.
Excellent. Thanks, Trish. Does anyone have any questions for Trish? And while we wait for a few questions to populate, if Vicky and Jessica want to come back, and Tara, maybe we can address between the three of you Laurel's question that we have still. So how do you build a customer base from scratch? Since Laurel lives in a city, it's difficult for her to market within her own community.
Yeah, I mean, how you build an audience from scratch. I think the absolute magic ingredient is time. I think it won't happen overnight. I think it's about consistently being around, and by around I mean at craft fairs, at you know, posting to your social media. I know that it's like, it seems like probably a millennial and lower thing to do, but honestly everybody's on social media, and they need to look, you need to look at how you can reach those people, or wherever your audience is, you kind of have to find them, right? And it just takes time. You post, you share. I mean, I have sold at the farmers market in downtown Edmonton. I mean, I don't any longer, but I think I spent 5 years of Saturdays selling my work downtown, and, you know, having conversations with customers, and you know, people would come in and buy work. You know, they come in and be like, oh my God, I have a wedding like tonight, I need a gift, you know, and I'd be like, well, do I have 2 towels for you? You know, like, and it just like, it was one thing after another over time. I mean, you see people who have really big audience bases, and it does have a mark of how kind of present they are, and how much they're sort of talking about their work, and being out there with their work.
Jessica or Trish, do you have anything to add to that?
Hi, can you guys see me or no?
Yes.
Oh, okay, because I can't see me.
Oh,
That's
no,
okay.
we can see you.
No, that's okay. You know what? I just kind of was really thinking about like this question, like how do you build a customer base from scratch? And I kind of thinking it just brings me back to a place where, you know, when I started practicing beadwork and learning all these techniques, like I initially started to bead what was already out there. And I had challenge. I remember one time I bought like a $50 thing to go do like a vendor at a powwow, and I wasn't making money. And I was selling these beautiful beaded earrings, like the flatbacks, for like $35. And it took me like 2 hours. Yeah. And honestly, I maybe sold one, and that customer still follows me to this day. But anyways, long story short, I realized I took a break from it. I stepped back. I was like, maybe this is not for me. And so I took a break, and then coming back to it a couple years later, I realized, you know what, I need to establish myself as an artist and find my own way. Mm-hmm. And so I just really played around with those designs and using like high quality materials in my work. So I work with a lot of like home tanned hide, which is really, really expensive. And I used to work with commercial hide. So making that transition, but also working with high quality findings for earrings, and just making a well quality like beaded piece, and establishing myself different from what everybody else is creating. And I think as a bead worker and an artist whose works, there's so many of us, but it's just really like establishing that relationship too, and people believing in my work and my craft, and just like coming back for more. And then in terms of how do I build customers from scratch, is this word of mouth. When people wear my earrings, they're like, oh, hey, where'd you get that from? It's the people. And they actually just tell them to come find me, let them know where my website is. And so definitely it's word of mouth, it's Instagram, and then having giveaways, like just take 2 people that aren't on your following, and do a giveaway if you can. And that's how people found me that way. But also like it's also being an amazing part of a community of artists who give me shout outs and direct people to my Instagram has really helped me really kind of get that customer base. So those are kind of things, and just like sharing, as Vicky was saying, like sharing on your socials, like all the time, being active, like they want to see your face, like what you're doing, what you're working with, what kind of materials. And also I think another thing too is on my website is I have a subscribers list. So people subscribe to that. And so, and I don't spam them or anything, but send maybe 1 email a month. and just let them know what's going on with JShine. But pretty much it's just like word of mouth. And since you are living in, I don't know what city you're living in, but I think just establishing your craft and what's unique to you, what makes you unique that's not already out there and is not created. And so that's how the people will come.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, thank you. Trish, do you have anything that you would like to add to that question?
The only thing is just to reiterate what the other two artists have said, and that is just building those relationships, I think, and getting those repeat customers and the word of mouth. That's and putting yourself out there. Oh, and also creating something that is your own, like your own art. Because I think, you know, Jessica, I think that's how a lot of us start out. That's how I started out, was like trying to recreate pieces that someone else had done, and you know, eventually it's great just to create your own pieces. But that said, I do still get a lot of requests for people asking me to recreate someone else's work, and that's a tricky one, actually. I've really been thinking about that a lot lately. I'm getting a lot less comfortable doing that.
I think maybe I'm going to jump over a question to, because Trish, that kind of leads into a question that Barbara has, and it's maybe the opposite of what you just talked about, but and this is for everyone, but Barbara says that she's had the experience of posting her work online and then somebody copied it. And so how do you balance wanting to spread your work as widely as possible with the risk of plagiarism?
I can take that on, because I've recently had to deal with that. It's a pretty uncomfortable thing to deal with, but it's also really super common, at least in the crochet world. So I have decided that I'm not going to fight about it. So if I put my design out there and someone likes it and wants to recreate it, I'm not going to fight them. Like, I'm just not going to do it. It's not going to be as good as mine. So yeah. I know that, and so they can go ahead and do it. And that's not the right answer for everybody, like, at all. That's just me.
Yeah.
Sure, and I can actually add to that too. It's funny how I'm not too sure like what kind of work you do, Barbara, but in terms of beadwork, that happens all the time. And for us, like in our work, in our practice, we create a piece of beadwork, but it's really hard to copyright each individual unique custom piece, because there can be, I have tons, like if the colors change or if anything changes, you have to get a new copyright. So that's like a very challenging issue for a lot of beadworkers out there. I've actually dealt with this last week. I had someone use my, take my pictures off my social media, but I actually had them watermarked. And they shared it onto their community page saying, hello, can anybody make these designs? I'd rather pay someone in the community rather than pay the artist.
Oh,
and
no.
I'd rather keep the money in the community. That really like struck a chord with me, and it doesn't sit well with me. And this has happened to me so many other times too. So I had two other Indigenous artists reach out to me saying, hey, this is going on, but we have your back. Not necessarily, we're going to fight you, but more or less like just saying, sorry, my dogs are going crazy. So basically like just them starting that dialogue and explaining to them how problematic this is. You're taken away from the artist and from that artist table. Like, I feed my family with my craft, like, and I don't think they understand it in that lens, whereas like they think they'd really have good intentions, but really they're hurting the artist. And like Trish said, like I don't go out there fighting and blazing and just like, you know, throwing people under the bus, but more or less like I just shared that to, what I did is I just shared it to my story. And honestly, I've received so much like positive yet a lot of different artists, amazing artists who contacted me, and that happens to them all the time, and it's just unfortunate. I think just maybe to protect yourself is watermark all your work. And if you do feel comfortable, like asking for credit, because I've had in some circumstances people asking me to recreate my work, and I'm like, I don't feel comfortable with that. I've come so far to get this design just perfect, and then someone just taking that and doing whatever they want with it. I just don't feel comfortable with that. But then going back to what Trish said, people, you're gonna have your customers, your following, and they're always gonna come back to you because the quality, they're not gonna do it up to your standard, up to what you, like for me, a lot of good medicine goes into my pieces, and I know that despite that happens to me quite regularly, I don't let it get to me because I just know I have something special to bring, and people are always gonna follow me and, you know, support me. So yeah.
No, 100%. Like 100%. I think copying happens a lot, and you know, as an independent designer, it's very difficult to prove it. It's very difficult to fight it, even though you know it's happened. And you have two options. One is to kind of take it as a form of flattery and realize that you've already made that and it's time to make something new. Or, you know, I mean, you could try and sue whoever it is, or I don't know. I mean, like, you know, whatever, right? Like I've heard of artists kind of banding together. I think there was a big thing about like Zara, the clothing company, making a bunch of enamel pins that were direct ripoffs of like, I think 20 different very well-known illustrators. And it just so happened that all 20 of those illustrators had, you know, incredible followings on their own, and they banded together and did manage to get something out of a big corporation. But I think there's, like, on a smaller level, a problem where people separate the work from the creativity, from the artist. Like, they separate the object from it. So they say, like, oh, like, I really like these earrings. I just want to pay someone in my community to make them. But what they kind of completely forget is that that came out of someone's brain, that came out of their passion, that came out of their skill. And I don't know, it's a bigger question of like, how do we get people to like really love art? I don't know, but or really like appreciate it, that it comes from a person. But my method is usually to just move on. You know, I've never copyrighted any of my work. I've looked into it, but just like Jess, like if something small changes, it's very, you know, it'd be very difficult to prove, and the courts are set up in such a way that, you know, you would really have to, you know, you'd really have to want to stop them to even start trying. So yeah, I move on too. Excellent,
thank you. We have, it looks like maybe just one question left. And this one just is asking how much money has been spent monthly, I guess on average, for website purpose, like hosting and website maintenance, etc., just to give this artist, sorry, it says anonymous, just to give this artist an idea of what you're spending monthly, if you feel comfortable with that. And that would be for all three.
Well, for myself, just in terms of the website, I think it's 45, and that, but there are different packages you can get. So my package allows me to have as many things as I want for sale. It allows me to send out as many newsletters as I want, which, you know, you've got to be careful with that too. So it really depends, but then that doesn't take into Facebook ads or yeah. So anyways, I think it's about 40, 45 bucks for me.
Thanks, Trish.
I am on Shopify, and I think it's $29 US a month. Like, I just have the basic plan. My Etsy by far and wide outsells my Shopify, but the Shopify gives me like a website along with the store. So I keep it because it's like a really professional sort of intranet front. Etsy, I think, charges you like a very minimal, like I think every listing costs you 10 cents and they make their money off of the final sale. So I think probably, I think it's around 10 to 12% of the sale they keep. But like I kind of said in my presentation, their audience is very large, and somehow what I make has connected with who's on Etsy. So it's worth it for me kind of to spend that money to make the money kind of thing. So yeah, it just depends. I mean, there's a lot for me. I mean, I can just like there's a lot around it more than just the cost of your website. Like my photographs at this point are professionally done. You know, I pay for that. You know, things like that. There's quite a bit kind of additional underneath that matters. You know, there's time in writing the descriptions and kind of maintaining your inventory levels and things like that. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, so for me, again, like I use Wix. So I think I just broke it down just quickly as with my calculator. It works out to be like about $19 or $20 a month, but I don't pay it monthly. It's like an annual subscription. So, so with that, again, like Vicky was saying, there's a lot of back end. I don't have a professional photographer, but definitely that's something like to look into, because I clearly, for every good photo on Instagram, I have to take 20 of them. Like, I just suck. Like, I just don't have the...
Oh, my photographer's the same way, though. I mean, it just takes time and effort to get these photographs that are really important to selling your work online. Yeah, that's not just you.
Sure. And so, so I have that fee, but then also I pay the fee for my customized email. You don't have to do that. You can just get a Gmail, whatever your business is, at gmail.com for free. I would highly recommend that. Or my customized one, I think it's like about $80 a year. I'm just guessing. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. It doesn't look like we have any other questions in the queue. So thank you so much, Vicky, Jessica, and Trish. This has been great. I'm going to pop back to the rest of our slides, and I think Tara is up next for the wrap up. So let me just, is that on the screen share there? Yes, it is. So we saw Trish, and we'll go through all of these. Sorry, folks. So Tara, do you want to wrap up?
Yeah, I just want to encourage you to think about becoming a member. It's really important. Strength through numbers. It's not very expensive. It allows us to put on this wonderful programming. And also, if you're an artist who is local in Lethbridge and you would like to paint a window over Arts Days or have some thoughts or ideas about that, I'd love to talk to you about that. And I want to thank all our participants so much. The information has been invaluable, and we really appreciate your input. Thank you.
And I just like to add an additional thank you to ATB Branch for Arts and Culture. Certainly without their partnership, today's session would not have happened. They had the connections with Jessica and Vicky. And then Trish is a member of the Allied Arts Council, so we have great representation from both organizations. Again, for those who don't know, September has been designated as the month of the artist. September has also been designated as Culture Days. So hopefully everyone is, if you're not an artist and you're on the call and just wanted to learn more, hopefully we're all participating in as many art activities as we possibly can. If you are interested in supporting the Allied Arts Council and would like to make a donation to support this program, you can do that at artslethbridge.org. And if you want to find out more information about membership, you can find that on our website. And as the last screen, just so that it's part of the recording, Tara's email address is projects@artslethbridge.org. And this session was recorded, so all of the contact information that was shared will be sent out to all of those who registered for the session tomorrow, and will also be posted on the Allied Arts Council YouTube page and our social media, and we'll send it up to Jocelyn to send out with her connections with Branch for Arts and Culture. So if there's nothing else from our panelists, I would like to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for all of our recipients for staying a little bit later. It is 7:44. Everyone have a wonderful evening. Thank you. We'll see you next month.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.